may didn't know this, but this was actually their final exam. Just kidding. Okay. All right. Hardest part, now complete. We're in the auditorium. Welcome, everyone, to the 2024 Neuroscience and Behavior Diploma Ceremony. Today is about celebrating this moment and these graduates. I'd also like to invite us to consider celebrating not just this moment, but all of the moments that have led to this day. Some big resume moments, like your college graduation, but most moments are inconsequential in the grand scheme of memory, but all a necessary part of the journey that has led to this 2024 graduating class. A friend recently introduced me to the T.S. Eliot poem, The Four Quartets. Time present and time past are both present in time future, and time future contained in time past. On a day like today, any caregiver can feel, I'm gonna cry, I always cry, just getting that out there. All right, on a day like today, any caregiver can feel the bittersweetness of this expression at a visceral level when we picture our extraordinary young graduates as the helpless infant that we once held. No matter how old you get, graduates, through our gaze, we see your entire history. Infancy, childhood, and adolescence reconstructed in a moment. And as we celebrate today, we're also awaiting the next season of your life with bated breath. Today, you transition from a college student to a grown-up. It's amazing how it happens, like magic. But today is not just a big day for these graduates. It's commemorative year for the major as well. It's our 10-year anniversary. And before I know, woohoo! Yeah. I also wanted to give it some extra time. If every graduate is confident that they now have a place to sit down, you are welcome to chairs in place. Extraordinary. All right. Yeah? Nobody's on the floor? Fantastic. It's a good day. Nothing can go wrong today. All right, it's not just a big day for these graduates, but it's a big day for our major. We're 10 years old this year. 10 years ago, the first year of the Neuroscience and Behavior major, and actually the last time Neuroscience and Behavior was in this space. We granted 2 degrees that year, and it's not because 2 students earned all of this, but the biology department was nice enough to let us walk as part of their department. And here we are, 10 years later, when going from 2, this year we have almost 150 students in the major, and almost just over 600 altogether across the colleges. We are here because you and others believed in us and followed belief with action, making our program is what it is today. So if you think about 10 years ago, most of you were finishing up 6th grade. Take a second, and I want everybody in the room to remember that 6th grade kiddo. What was happening in that kiddo's life? For most graduating today, 6th grade was around the transition to middle school, junior high, arguably the worst time of life for most people, and a part of life that most of us would never willingly go back to, except to maybe say thank you to that 6th grade person that you once were. Thank you to your 6th grade self for everything that you achieved, everything that you went through, everything you sacrificed, gifted of yourself to make this day possible. Could your 6th grade self have ever imagined this moment? Mine certainly couldn't, ever standing in a place like this on a stage at such a commencement ceremony. Part of today's celebration is making sure that we love and thank the kiddos that we once were. They still live inside of us, consolidated across our nervous systems. Without their experience, we wouldn't be the who we are today. 6 more years of adolescence aged your 6th grade self into a senior in high school, the you of only 4 years ago. The long season of adolescence most assuredly offers new experiences, not only academic, but through the neurobiological obligation of social reorientation that is the foundation of adolescent development, Most families have plenty of opportunities to figure out new ways of being, doing, and communicating with one another. Some caregiving units weather this season very smoothly, while I believe most adolescents offer some unique, unforeseen, and often raw challenges for a little bit of stretch and a lot of new learning. No matter your journey from 6th grade, entering your senior year of high school is often the opposite of what it feels like to start middle school. So much anticipation and hope for whatever the next steps might be. Your high school senior year was also unique because it was truncated by a pandemic that no one was prepared for. Your final days of school looked nothing like this, likely taking place on a computer over video chat, celebrating from your couch and possibly in your pajamas. So take a moment to remember where you were 4 years ago and celebrate the tenacity, the heartache, the gratitude, the growth and resilience that you achieved throughout your high school graduation season. And now here we are, 4 years gone in a flash. Today's celebration is about inviting all of the past that has made you to this moment today. Welcome, everyone, to the 2024 Neuroscience Behavior Diploma Ceremony. I'd like to welcome 2 members of our Senior Leadership Committee to the stage to offer some remarks and reflection.
Welcome again, and thank you all for joining us today and celebrating the Neuroscience and Behavior class of 2024. My name is Karina Solman.
And my name is Ethan Munier, and we are members of your Senior Leadership Committee. We have the honor of speaking to you and reflecting on our time as a major and community.
We often emphasize the many paths that neuroscience majors can take after graduation, but the commonality that links us all is our drive towards the common good. There are many applications of neuroscience beyond the dome, but we will all work to better our communities, both Notre Dame and new areas after graduation, while serving others on our post-grad journeys. Whether you're going to pursue a healthcare profession, research, law, social justice, or any other path, you are equipped with the strengths to further justice and love for every person. Notre Dame has instilled in each and every one of us the importance of working as a force for good, and we are confident that you will make your impact in the world in this special way.
From our neuroscience courses, we have learned that we have a neurobiological need for community. This strong biological and social sense of community underlies the Notre Dame experience and how we seek to grow from and with one another. From our experiences as students, we have learned that we would not have been able to make it through classes like organic chemistry or molecular neuroscience without the wisdom shared by our professors and time spent studying with friends.
Time spent not studying with friends was also good for our brains to take a much-needed break, like weekend tailgates and football, which may not have been the most restorative, but were very important for cheering on the beloved Irish.
We need each other to survive and ultimately thrive. We're all moving on to amazing new communities. And while that can bring about feelings of anxiety or fear, it's also an amazing opportunity for all of us to bring about the new Notre Dame community that we've experienced to wherever we end up. And wherever we all end up, there's a new opportunity for our brains to build new neural networks, grow in new perspectives, and deepen relationships with new friends. Life is beautiful and good and true, while simultaneously being filled with grief and pain and hardship. Be intentional about leaning into the beauty and joy and celebration that life has to offer. It will serve as strength for you to embrace the difficulty and pain that life will also offer. In our classes, we have learned how our behavior is shaped through the continuous repetition of action, that our neurons get strengthened every time we behave in a certain way.
Life is made up of the tiny daily choices we make. The more you intentionally make choices out of love and goodness, the stronger your synapses will be to more easily make similar choices out of compassion and truth going forward. Have the courage to keep firing these pathways. We all have the strength and capacity to be a force for good and love in this world. Thank you again for joining us today. We would now like to introduce Dr. Rachel Branco to offer recognition of this year's University of Notre Dame salutatorian, followed by Dr. Vanessa Chan, the Neuroscience Advisor for the College of Arts and Letters, and Dr. Joseph Otusa, the Neuroscience Program Co-Director for the College of Science, to present our senior awards for academic excellence.
Hello, everyone. It's my honor to introduce y'all to this year's Notre Dame graduating class of 2024 salutatorian, Shaker Urbini. Shaker, would you please join me? It's going to be a lot of clapping today. You can stand right here. So today we honor Shaker Urbini, an NSBH major with a compassionate care and medicine minor, who is this year's salutatorian for the University of Notre Dame graduating class of 2024. Shaker is a person who doesn't waste his words. Instead, you can learn everything about Shaker's nature by looking at his actions. Shaker's leadership in the Muslim Student Association on campus, his tutoring and mentorship for high school students from his native country of Syria, and his local research and volunteer efforts that emphasize centering people in vulnerable populations all illustrate how Shaker has used his intellect, energy, and passion to make our community and the broader world a more safe and compassionate place. Please welcome me and once again congratulating our salutatorian, Shaker Urbini. Now, Dr. Chan and Dr. Otusa will give out the NSBH Senior Awards.
The first set of awards I would like to introduce are the Outstanding Undergraduate Research Awards. These awards recognize two of our graduating class who have made significant research contributions. Sunyong Sandy Nam has been highly involved in research during her time at Notre Dame. As a member of the Patsky Lab for the last 2 years, Sandy dedicated approximately 20 to 25 hours each week focusing her work on the protein Coxsackie virus adenovirus receptor CAR. Yes, please clap for 20 to 25 hours a week. So she focused on an adenovirus receptor, a cell adhesion molecule previously characterized for its role in the development and function of cardiac tissue. Sandy's work is expanding our understanding of this protein's function by investigating the protein's role in the nervous system as well as its significance in Down syndrome pathology through a variety of cellular and molecular techniques. Sandy has presented her research at the Greater Indiana Society for Neuroscience conference at Purdue University. Sandy is very passionate about her research and has made great contributions to her lab, and she hopes to pursue an MD PhD in the future to continue this important work in the field of clinical research. Congratulations, Sandy. Our second Outstanding Undergraduate Research Award winner is Nadia Nosek. Nadia Nosek has worked in the Sleep and Memory Lab with Dr. Jessica Payne since January of 2021. Her project examines the effect of age and sleep on selective emotional memory consolidation. Over the years, Nadia collected data from 75 participants with sessions running 3 to 4 hours per session, in addition to overnight sleep studies. Her contributions were recognized through the award of a summer full-time research position in 2023. Nadia earned additional leadership, training over 30 undergraduate research assistants during her time in the lab. Nadia also joined Dr. Diane Lane's research program in 2024, where she has been working to create a drug self-administration device for the study of addiction in a mouse model. This work required iteratively designing device prototypes using 3D printing software. Nadia has presented her work at 3 conferences and is working towards submitting her work for publication. Congratulations, Nadia. Our second set of awards are the Outstanding Undergraduate Teaching Awards. This recognizes 2 students who have made significant contributions to the teaching environment for the Neuroscience and Behavior program here at Notre Dame. Our first Outstanding Undergraduate Teaching Award winner is Madeline Chang. Madeline has been a teaching assistant every semester on campus since her sophomore year, TAing 6 different courses ranging across disciplines of neuroscience, from chemistry to biology to psychology. In addition to her formal role as a teaching assistant, Madeline took her contributions a step further and also served as a tutor for General Chemistry 1 and 2, Organic Chemistry 1 and 2, Intro to Neuroscience, or Neuroscience and Behavior, Intro Neuro, Molecular Neuroscience, and Introduction to Cognitive Neuroscience courses. That was 7, as I could count on my fingers. Students under her care consistently remarked on how available she was to answer any questions that they had, and we honor her consistency and dedication today. Congratulations, Madeline. Our second Outstanding Undergraduate Teaching Award winner is Brandon Roberts. Brandon served as a teaching assistant for Organic Chemistry Lab for 4 semesters and Intermediate Economics for 2 semesters as both a teaching assistant and grader. His faculty nominator reported that Brandon was one of the best students he ever had and is equally superb in his mentorship of students in the class. In addition to his role as a teaching assistant and grader, Brandon also served as a peer advisor during his senior year. Teaching is something he became very passionate about through these activities and is something he hopes to continue in the future. Congratulations, Brandon.
Okay, I'm going to start by honoring 2 students as Outstanding Undergraduate Leadership and Service. There's 2 awards here. The first one is given to Brooke Friedman. She is attending other graduation ceremonies, not here today. But let me talk about Brooke for a minute. Brooke has consistently demonstrated passion for neuroscience and leadership in STEM education. Brooke has given her time to her peers as a mentor and teaching assistant in multiple classes over many semesters. As part of the Rare Neglected Disease team, Brooke spearheaded promotion of Rare Disease Days in 2023 at the South Dining Hall, as well as contacting experts in rare disease research, supporting program efforts to publish student reports with the National Organization of Rare Disorders. Brooke was twice selected for the Ignite Fellowship through Teach for America and serves as chief and staff for Scientia, a student-run scientific publication. She has also served as an enthusiastic member of the Neuroscience and Behavior Student Leadership Committee, supporting NSBH student community development here at Notre Dame. Let's congratulate Brooke. The second award winner for Outstanding Undergrad Leadership and Service is Tiana Sullivan. Tiana is a leader who has used her talents in many different areas to impact those around her. As part of the NSBH Senior Leadership Committee, she has helped to support other students in the major and organize activities that bring different members of the major together. As a resident assistant, she works to support younger students. Hearing her speak about the way she promotes the role, it is clear that she does so with tremendous care and passion. Finally, through her work with the Family Justice Center, Tiana has found ways to mobilize the evidence base of neuroscience in support of the common good of our broader community. Tiana has the heart of a servant leader and will continue to serve next year through her position in Phoenix, Arizona at Maggie's Place. There she will spend the next year or two accompanied expecting and young mothers, supporting them as they stabilize their family system. Thanks, Tiana. I'm next going to give out the awards for Universal Scholar, and we have 2 award winners. The first winner is Annika Barron. Annika demonstrated her broad curiosity through her NSBH Global Affairs double majors with a minor in the Catholic Social Tradition and the Glynn Honors Program. She also has an outstanding history of leveraging these interests into civic, community, and global engagement. Annika was part of the last cohort of students who were able to study abroad in Jerusalem, where her knowledge of adverse childhood experience and the group identity sculpted her understanding of the extreme social sequestration of the area. Annika has attended international conferences on climate change. She has testified in EPA hearings on health effects, climate effects of waste emissions. Annika has earned opportunities to study the justice systems in Norway and has worked with a local juvenile detention alternatives program since her sophomore year. Her thesis, entitled Imprisoned Minds, A Neurobiological Perspective on Incarceration, Rehabilitation and Justice, is just one example of how Annika is able to synthesize her fields of study through multidiscipline scholarship and has absolutely lived out the university's mission of service to justice in multiple capacities during her time here at Notre Dame. Our second award winner is Alan Averroes. Alan Averroes. Alan embodies the multifaceted leadership captured by the Universal Scholar Award. Alan's character is exemplified through his dedication at student advocacy, particularly with Latino and first-gen low-income students. During his time at Notre Dame, Alan has taken an active role with various student organizations, such as the Latino Student Alliance Club, the Mariachi Club, the Latino First Year Retreat, and the First Gen Career Initiative. Passionately committed to cultivating a sense of community and security among Latino students at Notre Dame, he organized and directed the largest Latino cultural showcase of the year, called Latin Expressions, and helped coordinate and lead the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. Alan also TA'd for molecular neuroscience, again demonstrating his commitment to supporting his peers. His service to others was not restricted to campus either. In the community, he has been involved in the St. Mara Brannick Clinic, the La Casa de Amistad. Alan also has varied and deep research experience with his engagement and leadership in multiple projects in the Smith Lab, leading to a first author report, quite an accomplishment. Alan has presented his work at the Greater Indiana chapter of Neuroscience and at the Zebrafish Neuroscience meeting that takes place at Cold Spring Harbor, New York. Through his involvement in the Notre Dame academic and extracurricular activities and the Greater South Bend community, Alan has demonstrated his passion and relentless dedication to making a positive impact. Next year, Alan will continue to explore his curiosities through research by pursuing a PhD degree in neuroscience at Northwestern University. Congratulations, Alan.
Joe doesn't know what's happening right now because it's not in the program because it's a surprise. This is Dr. Otusa, please come around here. No. But this is Dr. Otusa. And before I'm going to let Dr. Otusa sit down, it's worth noting that he is retiring this year, and this will be our last chance to express our gratitude for everything that you may or may not know that he has made possible. As I mentioned at the beginning of the ceremony, Neuroscience Behavior is celebrating its 10-year anniversary, which means for an academic program to exist, people were around beforehand, working for years to make it possible. Dr. Otusa was one of these people. He was taking part in the first conversations about ideas around the program as part of a provost initiative called Conversations in Mind, Brain, and Behavior back in 2009. He crafted the first neurobiology track in the biological sciences, allowing students from the College of Science to earn credit from psychology courses within the College of Arts and Letters. He was also part of drafting the original curriculum proposal and the curriculum that became the first version of the major that was launched in the 2014-2015 academic year. And he's also the founding co-director for our major. We are forever grateful and indebted to everything that you did to make this possible. And Here's a little present for retirement.
Only one comment. I'm graduating too.
Yay! All right. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Megan Brown. Dr. Megan Brown currently serves as the director for the McDonald Center of Student Wellbeing at the University of Notre Dame, a place that we affectionately refer to as McWell. Megan received her PhD in counseling psychology from Andrews University in Michigan. Prior to working at McWell, she worked as a staff psychologist at the University Counseling Center at Notre Dame and Student Health and Counseling Center at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. Dr. Brown is also a life coach and an active member of the Action Network for Equitable Wellbeing, a national network of diverse people and organizations who work together to accelerate transformational change in higher education settings so that all college students have the opportunity to thrive and flourish. Dr. Brown's leadership and efforts at McWell demonstrate her passion to supporting our students. She leads a variety of campus efforts in support of this very lofty goal. She is an avid student of positive psychology and the scientific study of flourishing lives, communities, and organizations. Dr. Brown thoughtfully applies these principles throughout her work via clear communication, community building, and strong servant leadership, rousing courageous leadership in others. She believes that everyone is a world changer and that when we are living our best lives, we indeed make the world a better place and inspire others to do so as well. These central tenets of shared responsibility, common good, and collective impact are a through line across all of Dr. Brown's work. When not working, Megan loves to travel, read, spend time outdoors, make music, play board games, and do all of the above with friends and family. Director Brown, it is an honor for us to share in your wisdom today. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Brown to the podium.
Distinguished faculty and staff, esteemed and so proud family and friends, and worthy graduates of 2024, what an accomplishment. We know your story. Your ending at high school and your beginning at Notre Dame were difficult, to say the least. And you did it. Your future may be bright, or it may even be uncertain right now. You may be ecstatic about leaving Notre Dame, or you may be grieving the loss of this place that you now call home. I see you. It is important to pause and to acknowledge where you are right now. And wherever you are, it's okay. And we can celebrate all that you accomplished in that space because you accomplished a lot. This moment is a gift to be cherished no matter the circumstances. And because you're neuroscientists, you know how fast the brain works and how important it is then to pause and take it all in. So I invite you, graduates, to take it all in right now. One way we celebrate is to give and receive gifts. Have you received some cool gifts already? Yeah? maybe a little cash in a card, maybe a portfolio. Actually, the one that I have is the one that I got when I graduated, so you actually do use it. Gifts come in all shapes, sizes, colors, textures, and that's what I'd like us to spend some time reflecting on this afternoon, pausing on this afternoon. That fast brain of yours, let's pause and unwrap some of those gifts and enjoy the present moment, reflect on the past, and anticipate the future. So to set the stage, I invite you to bring to mind, all of us, to bring to mind a favorite gift that you've ever received, a tangible one. Maybe it was one of your graduation gifts, or maybe it was a birthday gift or a holiday gift from long ago. You've probably received a lot of them, but pick one. Pick one that was one of your favorites. Have you got one? Okay. So what made it your favorite? Maybe it was something that you wanted for a really long time. Maybe it was the thoughtfulness of the giver and how they delivered it to you. Or maybe it was the hours of pleasure that you received from using it. Or maybe it was all of the above. So I'm fortunate to have received a number of gifts over my lifetime that were my favorites for many different reasons. But the first favorite gift I can remember I received at Christmas when I was 5 years old. Now I need to paint the picture for you just a bit. My parents were immigrants from Jamaica to Canada. And the Christmas traditions on the island of Jamaica and their rural towns at the time were different from those in North America and how they celebrated Christmas. So when they came to the very frigid north, it took them a while to learn the holiday customs in Canada. But by the time I was 5, they got it. On Christmas Day, when it was still pitch black outside, my father picked me up out of bed while I was still asleep and took me to the living room. I later learned that it was 5 a.m. I didn't know if someone had told them that it's a tradition for kids to wake up early on Christmas, but neglected to tell them that they wake up on their own out of excitement. Or maybe he was just so excited he couldn't wait to let me wake up on my own. Whatever the case is, half asleep in his arms, rubbing my eyes, there I spotted a tree, a Christmas tree in our living room. They had put it up the night before. It was a fake one. There were no decorations and lights, but its presence made for a very special moment. And under the tree, there was one solitary, unwrapped, unboxed gift. There in front of me was a toy I had seen many times on commercials and had eyed in the department store. My mom would say, "Not today, Megan, not today." But today was the day. The turquoise blue color, I'm dating myself, was dazzling to me. My eyes opened wide, and I was not tired anymore. It was an easy bake oven. Okay, some of you with grayer hair may remember that turquoise blue easy bake oven. Now, these weren't the little ones that they have now that look like tiny microwaves. These were like an oven with a stove and a little cabinet combo underneath. It couldn't really open, but it looked really cool. And I can tell you, that was the last time anybody had to wake me up on Christmas morning. That little oven gave me so much joy. I love cake, and I also love sharing what I baked with others. It doubled my pleasure. I enjoyed that toy for so many years, probably until I was about 12 years old and could use a real oven. But because I love that Easy Bake Oven, I took good care of it. And when I got ready to let it go, I was able to donate it with the hope that another child would get as much joy from it as I had. Gifts are precious. It's because of the joy they give, because of the person who gave it to us, and because of what it symbolizes. Love, thoughtfulness, sometimes sacrifice. There are so many layers to gifts, and we can notice them if we pause to see them. So I'm a counseling psychologist and health promoter. Mental health and the science of well-being are my areas of expertise, not neuroscience, even though it plays into what I do. But I've cultivated this knowledge for almost 30 years. And I have had the honor of walking alongside students in their deepest pain and celebrating with them in elated joy. The perspective I bring is one of pausing to articulate truth and love, which we know from both science and ancient wisdom are healing, but not always comfortable and not always intuitive. From that perspective, I want to remind you of, on this very special weekend, that you are surrounded by gifts every single moment of your life. Some gifts aren't wrapped, and some you may not even recognize as special, perhaps even the opposite. I invite you to take some time to rub the sleep out of your eyes, to see some of the gifts that I hope you will treasure for the rest of your lives, and hopefully share with others. I don't expect you to remember a thing I say, okay? But part of my work is to help people to practice. And when you know, as neuroscientists, when you practice, you will remember more. And that's what we're going to do. First gift of the present. You are literally surrounded by them. Your family, your friends, your mentors, significant others, anyone who has loved you, invested in you, been there for you in good times and bad, they are precious gifts. Never neglect these people. Healthy reciprocal relationships are probably the most important factor in our well-being. The oxytocin you release when you love them and they love you back, it doesn't just make you feel good, you know that. It makes you healthy. You are going to be tempted to neglect those relationships in your new, busier life. You think it's not going to be busy, it's going to get really busy. But regularly investing in those relationships is going to give you joy and strength when yours runs out. But I want to add something that we don't talk about very often. And it's a lesson that I learned later in life. Don't waste your time with people who don't treat you as a gift. Always be respectful, but don't waste time when somebody else doesn't respect you. Whether it is a friendship, a romantic partner, or an employer, it will not only cost you time and money, but your health and well-being. And I know family relationships are a little more challenging and tricky, but time is finite. And when you spend time with people who don't care about you, don't see your value, don't treat you with respect, it takes time away from the people who do care about you and value and respect you, and it takes away your health. And don't think you can change them. This is arrogance. They need to want to change themselves. Love your enemies, but invest your love in people who love you. So, second, many of you will soon be in new environments with new people and have new experiences. I hope it's exciting for you. But I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty stressful and it can be lonely. So gift number 2, I invite you to seize it. Aloneness. We associate being alone with loneliness, and although they can be related, they're not the same. It's normal to be lonely sometimes, and chronic loneliness is a problem. We know that. But sometimes we become lonely because we don't appreciate aloneness. It is a gift to hear your thoughts, sit with your feelings, and talk to yourself. And if you believe, to hear a still small voice. The busyness of life has led us to lose so many of the benefits of the gift of being alone. Reflection, creativity, restoration, depth of character and conviction. But it's important to be alone. Now, the introverts amongst you get this, but we often don't acknowledge it as a gift. And in our society, we can sometimes even feel ashamed about it. But be proud of it. Stand up for yourself to make sure you have the time to be alone. And don't waste your alone time fretting about being alone. Use it to notice the many gifts in your life. Use it to get to know yourself, and use it to get to know your higher power. You're not going to like gift number 3. I don't think I do either, but I think it's one of the most powerful gifts. It's the gift that comes from adversity. And I want to make this really clear. Adversity is not the gift, but it often bears gifts that we could not have without having had adversity. For me, some of these were 3 deaths over a summer, breaking up with my fiance, caring for my mother with dementia, and experiencing discrimination at work. These were some of the most challenging times in my life. I didn't want to be there. But looking back, I learned the most about myself, grew the most, and my life is better because I leaned into the pain and didn't avoid it. If I had avoided the pain, I would have missed the gifts. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you should make your life difficult in order to grow. There's enough adversity to go around without intentionally making it happen. What I want you to remember is this. When adversity strikes, look for the gifts. In the midst of suffering, acknowledge the reality that life often brings gifts in unexpected packages. Is that true for you? Can you think of some in the last 4 years? Take a moment to pause and acknowledge that. You know what this is called? It's called hope. And at Notre Dame, within our Holy Cross tradition, we call ourselves people with hope to bring. Never let go of the belief that somewhere a gift is waiting for you, even in adversity. This perspective is difficult for anyone to gift to you. Trust me, you'll resent them for it. So don't try to give that gift to other people. It's something you need to give to yourself. It's a perspective that is best when you take it on. Look for the gift in adversity. And the fourth and final gift I want to highlight is your neuroscience degree. What a gift to understand the human brain and human behavior. Wow. You've got one up on your family. What a gift to understand this tool that makes you so beautifully and wonderfully made. What a gift to know the value of things like sleep. What a gift to understand the hope of neuroplasticity, that we don't have to stay the way that we are right now, and that we can grow and be different no matter how old we are. What a gift to know the mechanisms of stress and to be able to mitigate them. These gifts give you an advantage if you pause to remember them and use them. And what is a sign that you truly appreciate a gift? Do you bury it? Do you break it? Do you return it? No, you display it. You use it. You take care of it. You share it. You have a knowledge that not only makes a difference in your personal life, you have a knowledge that can change the well-being of others too. You have knowledge that can change the world. Your modeling, your influence, your advocacy for what you know about the brain and well-being are powerful. And it's because you are a gift. Who you are, what you know, what you bring is unique. No one else in the world brings what you do the way you do. Can you believe that? And your neuroscience degree is now a powerful part of who you are and the difference you make in the world. Think of one thing that you've learned in your neuroscience classes that has made a difference in your life. Can you think of something? Can you put it in one word or a sentence? Let me see some nods if you've got something. Okay, faculty, you did a good job. I want you to tell somebody beside you what came to mind, okay? We're just taking 30 seconds. Great. So for me, I would have shared the science of compassion. That has been transformational for me. I challenge you to tell someone else in your life. They'll come and tell you, okay? Friends and family. And I challenge you to tell somebody in your future life. And more importantly, I challenge you to live it. Your life will speak much more loudly than your words, and it will be the most powerful gift you can give. Graduates, there are so many gifts, too many to list, but we've reviewed just a few of them. Your relationships, aloneness, gifts from adversity, your knowledge of neuroscience, and yourself. But you don't need to remember them. All I ask you to do is one thing. Look for the gifts. Be amazed by how many gifts there are. And when you notice, use them, enjoy them, share them with others. And most importantly, remember that you are a precious gift. You are so valuable, you make a difference, and you are enough. You are worth taking care of. And when you do take care of yourself and let others take care of you, you have more to give. You make the world a better place because you appreciate gifts and because you acknowledge that you are a gift. Graduates, thank you for being a gift to us at Notre Dame for the last few years. I don't think we tell you enough how much you give to us as staff and faculty at the university who work with you every day. You are going to be amazing gifts to your new communities and to the world. But remember to pause that fast brain of yours and look for the gifts. And remember, you are a gift. Congratulations, class of 2024.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Well, that concludes our program, so we'll see. No, just kidding. We've reached the part of the program you've been waiting for, both for the last hour and perhaps for the last 4 years, the diploma ceremony. I'd like to invite the first row of graduates to stand and make your way toward the stage. Guests, please enjoy celebrating with your graduate as their name is called and getting your own pictures if you wish. Please do also be respectful of the time, space, and sight lines of others as you do so. All right. And now the graduates of the class of 2024. Manvit Adusamili. Sophia Renee Allen. Carlo Antonio Amarato. Macy Carol Annenson. Yvonne Emily Arguelles. Madeline Ann Arubarina. Alan Ricardo Avalos Arceo. Annika Grace Barron. Emma Margaret Bouchard. Caroline Grace Bender. Melanie Benitez Gonzalez. Margaret Rose Berquist. Samantha Lynn Blake. Ethan Michael Boyle. Jillian Margaret Brunner. Martha Dolly Castellini. Sophia Christine Catania. Lucero Chena. Madeline Xinyu Zhang. Chidima Obiadiri Chigozi. Ikundayo Constantine Cole. Lorena Sophia Colon. Fiona Margaret Connolly. Kelsey Ann Crawford. Caitlin Victoria Cunningham. Sarah Nicole Dowd. Rosemary Irene Delamater. Peyton Jill DiManueli. Joseph Jacques Depore. Aubrey Ann DiStefano. Kristen Elizabeth Duma. Megan Catherine Dunn. Shakir Mohammed Erbini. Caroline Elizabeth Flake. Anne Marie Forright. Maria Marcella Freck. Tristan Philip Gamboa Gallion. Megan Grace Gillian. Diana Garcia. Anne Elizabeth Gentine. Alan George. Emily Gillen. Tai Win Ha. Zachary James Hahn. Alyssa Joan Hardavy. Olivia Gertrude Harrell. Amelia Grace Harmon. Jovette Mackenzie Hawkins. Tara Jean Henry. Sarah Michelle Hepler. Alana Margaret Hine. John Christopher Lavin. Christina Mercedes Holman. Wanjiko Kathleen Hops. John Andrew Huffman. Juliana Rose Keenan. Lauren Megan Kennedy. Panayotis Katonis. Gunwoo Kim. Lucas Scott Kopp. Thomas William Craffle. Megan Armel Kraus. Sachi Kumar. Juliet Alexandra Langley. Isabella Sky Larissa. Young Min Lee. Shannon Christine Leiden. Thomas Quint McClelland. Ethan Christopher Munier. Andrew Stephen Miller. William Garrett Milosevic. Alexa Marie Misticelli. Maria Therese Murphy. Sandy Sunyan Nam. Corey Satoshi Nishimura. Therese Kathleen Noonan. Julia Ann Norton. Nadia Rose Nosek. Cecilia Jane O'Brien. Chukwudumebi Stephanie Ona. Sophia Gabriela Orlandi. Catherine Jane Party. Elizabeth Arlene Petrosky. Zion Joel Porter. Zoe Elizabeth Postal. Claire Knight Pryor. Juliana Maria Ramirez Perry. Emily Rao. Elena Renee Gertrudis Razo. Brandon Holbrook Roberts. Camille Reed Scanduro. Ashley Marie Schmidt. Eli Robert Survey. Joshua Oluwashola Sobo Ogunrunde. Karina Marie Solman. Logan Christopher Stuck. Tiana Ray Sullivan. Francesca Anna Taylor. Nicholas Peyton Tippins. Jonathan Hui To. Nicholas James Tucci. Tahira Janai Vera. Megan Rose Walsh. Erin McCarthy Ward. Jacob Paul Weber. Cade Jeffrey Whitsitt. Annalise Kelly Weir. Chin Shao Wu. Christian Scott Yoder. Kaylina Joelle Zakaranek. And Sophia Veronica Zitella. Please join me in congratulating all of our graduates. Finally, I'd like to introduce the Reverend John A. Zahm, Teaching Professor of Neuroscience, the Founding Director of Undergraduate Studies in Neuroscience and Behavior, the last-minute arranger of chairs, and the person who has built this program from the ground up to be what it is today. Please welcome Dr. Nancy Michael.
Just like that, we're almost done. Previous classes have gifted our last moments together with a phrase that you see in the program, the last class. For our graduates, it's one last dip into undergraduate neuroscience and behavior. And for all of our loved ones here today, it's our chance to share with you just how cool the study of brain and behavior really is. If today were a topic on a syllabus, it would read something like, what do Star Trek, St. Augustine, and neuroscience have to do with each other? If you can stick with me for about another 15 minutes-ish, hopefully these seemingly disparate threads will be woven together. And no, I did not talk with Dr. Brown about a single thing before this event today. We are the program that we are today because we experience the ripples of those that came before us. Whether or not we know their names, we inherit our place from them. We are the people we are today because of the accumulated moments of our younger selves. That awkward sixth grader, the hopeful high school senior, the scared college freshman, they all still live inside you. And now you also become a proud college graduate. Time present and time past are both perhaps present in time future, and time future contained in time past. All of those pieces now woven across the neural architecture of your memories, consolidated as the pieces of who you have become. St. Augustine was a 4th century Christian theologian and scholar, credited for his portrayal of the innermost workings of the human being, the mind and heart, desire and memory. He's also well known for the disarming honesty with which he writes his spiritual autobiography, The Confessions, in which he describes the tension that exists between the desires of the things of the world and his ultimate desire, a longing to experience God who is love. In chapter 10 of Augustine's Confessions, his writing reflects on memory in the context of time. Similar to the bittersweetness that can accompany days like today, Augustine's writing articulates how memory is not just past, but that past populates present and anticipates the future. Much like T.S. Eliot's 4 quartets, in an agreement with how the nervous system consolidates, scaffolds, and recalls information, through memory, we can meet ourselves at different stages of our life. What we recall of ourselves from the past, how these pieces affect our current self, and inform how we consider our future paths. An easy way to think about this developmentally is that we're built from the bottom up. We're born with the basic functions to sustain life, and everything else is built with time, learned through exchanges with our environment. Over the long course of time, we become both bottom-up and top-down. And much to the chagrin of Descartes, no matter how old we get or how much we think we know, we are always very much bottom-up. Through this protracted development, our maturing nervous system allows for the kind of reflection that St. Augustine so beautifully describes as the ability to meditate upon all things, past, present, and future, as if they were now present, like the bittersweetness of a college graduation. Augustine describes this as the embedded nature of memory and self. We are embodied, relational, and emergent through our experiences of the past, in the context of the present, and wanting for a future. Augustine's description is much more graceful than anything you would ever find in a scientific journal, and yet still beautifully captures the scaffolded and associative nature of brain function. With different language and perspective for sure, both theology and neuroscience suggest that neither memory nor self exist as isolated fragments of information, but as obligately interwoven threads that become the tapestry of self, necessarily receiving life from the external world from the moment that we are born and forever after. Based on these obligations of brain function, seeing me here today carrying the title Director of Undergraduate Studies for Neuroscience and Behavior at the University of Notre Dame to boot will necessarily activate a tapestry of pre-existing neural connections in almost every brain here. This activity will populate some idea of who I could be, but I promise that no matter what you imagine, I did not escape the universal awkwardness of 6th grade. Picture me, 33 years younger, 5 inches shorter, 15 pounds heavier, with a bad perm and worse acne. The perm was the 80s. That is the mental image of 6th grade me. Incredibly insecure, but blessed with good friends, great teachers, and parents who loved my siblings and me fiercely, even when they didn't know how to love each other anymore. Although their divorce became official when I was in 6th grade, that announcement wasn't surprising to anyone who knew what was happening behind closed doors. In this season of uncertainty that spanned much of my young life, I would sometimes sneak out of bed. Long after I should have been asleep, I would abscond to the lower level because that's where I knew I would find my dad watching TV after the rest of the house had long gone quiet. I don't remember the specifics. I don't remember how many times this actually might have happened. But I do remember that those moments cuddled into the side pocket of my dad's warmth is absolutely what love and safety feel like. And thanks to associative memory, this sensation of love became consolidated with my feelings for the old Star Trek shows. And in particular, Star Trek: The Next Generation. I can't put it into words what those moments meant. Right? They live so deeply inside of my memory, I just feel them. The characters of Captain Picard and his crew became like family and a core part of how my nervous system can reconstruct the safety and love of my dad to this day, even decades later. Now, for those who aren't familiar with Star Trek: The Next Generation, it's a science fiction series from the late 1980s that's set about 350 years into the future. Earth is part of the United Federation of Planets, a fictional cooperative that extends across the galaxy. The show was considered a platform to explore what it means to be human and mankind's efforts to build a better society. 6th grade me understood none of that symbolism. I just knew that watching the show, snuggled next to my dad, made me feel settled from the bottom up. These memories, the ones that become core to who we are, they exist without narrative, embedded so deeply within and across our neural networks that they are foundational of the who we become. Captain Jean-Luc Picard was played by Sir Patrick Stewart, and much like the symbolism of the show, 6th grade me had no idea how noteworthy this actor actually was. I just liked Captain Picard. He was a pretty cool guy. There was a grace about his leadership that offered dignity and seemed to make people, or different planetary species, feel safe, welcome, no matter their origin. But to be good science fiction, every protagonist has to have a nemesis. Yeah? And Jean-Luc's was named Q. Wikipedia describes Q, ready for it, as an extra-dimensional being of unknown origin who possesses immeasurable power over time, space, the laws of physics, and reality itself. Pretty powerful guy. And he can bend any of these on a whim, and he's also not above practical jokes for his own amusement. Suffice to say that there was lots of friction between Q's shenanigans and Jean-Luc's determination to build intergalactic peace and harmony. Since I was in 6th grade, there have been a number of additions to the Star Trek franchise, but I never really got into any of these because Star Trek's meaning was constructed with my dad and experienced through the characters of Captain Picard and his crew. Star Trek faded from my memory, and I didn't think much of it for decades. But remember, we are built from the bottom up. So imagine my reaction when the franchise decided to make not another Star Trek series, but a Picard series. So many feelings rushed forward, pieces of my past self reconstructed, took a giant breath, claiming life after decades of dormancy. Past and present, melding powerfully to ignite excitement for the future. Now, I want to take a moment to ask everyone to think back to their own Star Trek memory. That memory of love and safety that's so much a part of your core, it exists almost solely in feeling. No words could ever do it justice. It's just a part of you that's become embedded so deeply, it's now embodied as a central component of the who you've become. As silly as it sounds, that's what this show and its characters represent for me. It also just so happened that I discovered Picard sometime during the pandemic. I don't know about anybody else, but my pandemic memory is still totally shot. I can't place a timeline to save my life. It's all just really hazy. So sometime during the pandemic, this show came to my attention. What I do remember is that this time was a season that I did not get to see my dad for almost 2 years. So the sight of Captain Picard filled me with that deep sense of love and safety that I had consolidated so many years ago. The Next Generation characters showed up throughout season 1 like old friends, each of them bringing with me a sense of security and hope that my soul had been aching for during this long season of isolation. A significant plotline of the second season becomes about the exploration of Picard's past, how that past now prevents him from accepting love in the present. We are invited to explore the question, why has Captain Picard chosen to be alone? Much like my 6th grade self never recognized the symbolism of the original Next Generation series, I also never gave any thought at all about who Captain Picard might have been as a boy. But here in the first episode of season 2, Picard's choice to be alone triggers a very powerful memory of his childhood, and we, for the first time, are introduced to Jean-Luc Picard, the boy. It turns out that even in science fiction, we're offered an opportunity to explore the embedded nature of memory and self. In Jean-Luc's memory, the family has just moved from Paris to the countryside, and it is clear that Jean-Luc, the boy, is not happy. As any caregiver would, Jean-Luc's mother gives her best attempts to lift the spirit of her young son. Their new home can become a place of magic and make-believe. Jean-Luc's eyes begin to brighten, and he comes alive enough to ask the hopeful question, will you fight less here? A question that I, as a child, often wondered myself. His mother's gaze goes solemn, and we get a powerful glimpse into much more complex pain that lives within the Picard home. A deep sadness exists within his mother, a father doing everything he can to protect those he loves and who is afraid of the future. A fear that often manifests as anger. And a boy who is helpless to control any of it, yet obligated to continue to depend on his caregivers for safety and belonging. In response to this heartfelt question, Jean-Luc's mother responds, of course we will. But if we should fight and yell at each other now and then, I want you to look up and imagine how tiny your voices are out there. So tiny you can't even hear them. Look up at the stars, Jean-Luc. Look up. We are built from the bottom up, embodied, relational, and our construction of self emerges through our experience of the past in the context of the present, wanting for a future. Learning about Jean-Luc the boy introduces a curiosity about Captain Picard, the man. In the stars, was he seeking or running? Why does Jean-Luc Picard choose to be alone? Now, obviously, this storyline on its own would not make for good science fiction. So in the first episode of season 2, none other than Picard's nemesis Q shows up and starts messing with the galactic timeline. The thrills unfold through the second season as Picard and his friends realize that in Q's alternative timeline, the Peace-Building Federation never came into existence, and instead an authoritarian confederation now dominates the galaxy with force and violence. And it's Picard's task to fix it. Oh my goodness, for all of you science fiction lovers out there, can you imagine the thrills that unfold? We're tricked into believing that the goal of this science fiction adventure is to fix time, to restore the original timeline and right the wrongs of Q's practical joke. But ultimately, fixing time was not about defeating the enemies of the present. Fixing time could only be done through healing the wounds of Picard's past. Often painful and sometimes scary, Picard learns that reclaiming the exiled pieces of his young memories were essential to the right ordering of his present relationships. I can't think of a single person I know, including myself, whose family doesn't have some kind of past. So why is it we still tend to exile those pieces to places in our memory we prefer not to travel? Through the tribulations of Picard, season 2, Q teaches us that we are never too old to be students of our own behavior. That there is extraordinary freedom, grace, and love when we have the courage to face our past. Not to fix it, but to face it. To reintegrate those exiled pieces of self such that our nervous system can achieve balance in its autonomic function and regulation. Letting go of shame and lifting our gaze to experience our belovedness. Look up, dear graduates. Look up. When face to face with Q at the end of the season, Jean-Luc asks the simple question, why? Why me? As if to say, what makes me so special that going through all of this would be worthwhile? The response Q gives is equally simple, and exactly the response that my folks would give me, and exactly the response that your parents and loved ones would give you. We go through such lengths because you matter, because we love you deeply. We love you so much that we would rearrange the galactic timeline if it meant that we could heal your pain, allowing to experience yourselves through our gaze, so that you can not just know it, but feel how beloved you truly are. There they are. So, what do Star Trek, can't see anymore, hold on one second. What do Star Trek, St. Augustine, and neuroscience have to do with one another? Quite a bit, it seems. My hope is that every single person here today has some kind of a Star Trek memory, a core part of our self consolidated so long ago that it can still provide safety and love and maybe even communion with those whom we can no longer see. Across our lifespan, our nervous system organizes and reorganizes our self-constructs. Centuries ago, St. Augustine wrote with prophetic accuracy on the workings of memory and self, that memory is self-reflexive, born in the capacity of the mind, that memory is anything but stable, and coming to the conclusion that the inner life is a complicated place. what Augustine called a riddled enigma even unto itself. And man, oh man, was he right. The inner life is indeed complicated. Luckily, St. Augustine's writings also offer a solution to our sort of riddled enigma of the mind and self. St. Augustine proposes that the human system is incapable of finding healing, finding communion in isolation. A proposal that neuroscience can now support and the guiding lessons of Picard Season 2. While St. Augustine leans into his own memories of love, Picard leans on likely and unlikely friends to discover love. But for both, through love, they also discover the human need for the community of others as a requirement to support and sustain our human spirit. Only in community, in right relationship with one another, can love become embodied. Neurobiologically, reciprocity in relationship, no matter our age, is a biological imperative. This principle was described eloquently 1,700 years ago in the writings of St. Augustine, can be witnessed in the neural circuitry of attachment and adaptation, and depicted through science fiction tales like Picard, set well into the future. But no matter if you prefer the language of St. Augustine, neuroscience, or Star Trek, all three are speaking to the same truth, that we cannot and should not burden this life alone. That there is some sort of human imperative beyond our current comprehension that binds us to one another more deeply than we can possibly fathom. Yet, despite this wisdom showing up over millennia across such a wide variety of spaces, all too often we continue to choose to be alone. We lower our gaze from one another, turning our focus inward. We are amidst an epidemic of loneliness, all the while feeling like we are failing if we are not able to carry this burden on our own. Theology has known for ages what neuroscience can now articulate, and science fiction can tell in thrilling tale, that this community, our communion with others, is exactly the medicine that so many of our aching nervous systems are seeking. We know better. We've known better. And it is up to us now to do better. To look inside, to have the courage to explore our own riddled enigma, and to make a faithful choice to lift our gaze beyond ourselves and embrace the communion that awaits in right relationship with one another. Please join me in a moment of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, these incredible graduates have gone through extraordinary things. You are God who is love. We cannot experience your love, our belovedness, when we are running from pieces of ourselves. Please help us remember that no matter our past, your love can rearrange the galaxy, enabling us to see all of the wonder and beauty that lives inside us. Not just to know it, but to feel it. To sense throughout our being that we are not just loved, but beloved. Just as Q did for Picard, so your love offers us. A forever gift for every nervous system here today. We pray for courage to accept the love that might be right in front of us. Let it become consolidated across the nervous systems, allowing for peace, strength, and safety whenever we should call on it, now and forever into the future. Look up, dear graduates, and see what's out there. In your name we pray. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the class of 2024.